some makeshift repairs were needed to get Mark Corbett and Rudy Balza in the Century Property Development Racing CR1 back to the pits.
So we qualified first yesterday, obviously, but unfortunately we hit a bit of a rock or something, and it broke our steering arm, and we've had to glue it in place to get home.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Going off the beaten track to find finance from ABSA. Overcoming all obstacles.
After a chilly and overcast start, it had turned into a sweltering day in KwaZulu-Natal. And back at the pits, Nissan VIP guests were being spoilt with food and refreshments in the cool of a huge marquee. The entertainment included skydivers dropping in on proceedings, all of which was of little concern to Hannes Grobler and Johan Moore, who were starting the final loop of the race at the front of what looked like developing into a Nissan benefit.
Grobler and Moore had a big lead at the front of the production par field, and all they had to do to make sure of their first victory of the season was bring the Donaldson Nissan Navara home in one piece. A win for Grobler and Moore also looked to be Nissan's third success of the season, and barring mechanical failure, it looked like turning into a drive through the park.
The special vehicle leaders were in much the same boat as Grobler and Moore, and all Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman had to do to secure a hat-trick of wins was to keep their heads and avoid any heroics. For the former champions, it was turning into a season in sharp contrast to their 2008 trials and tribulations.
A Norwegian and a Yorkshireman in a South African car sounds like a league of nations, but Ivar Tollefsen and Quinn Evans were doing a sterling job. In true off-road spirit, when he got married to wife Emily 3 years ago, Evans chose the most northerly church in the world in the Arctic Circle to tie the knot. Tollefsen and Evans are in their third season in the ABSA Off-Road Championship, and a maiden win looks to be in the offing for the popular foreigners.
Herman Sulwalt won a South African championship 15 years ago, and along with San Vichart, had a tight hold on a hard-earned second place in the special vehicle stakes. They had a lead of over 3 minutes ahead of Nick and Ryan Harper, who'd come up with another of their trademark steady performances in the Atlas Copco Bat.
Another solid performance had taken KwaZulu-Natal crew Clint Gibson and Gary Campbell into 4th place in the Gibson Racing Bat. And a well-deserved 5th place had veterans Nardis Alberts and Jeff Minnett smiling from ear to ear in the Rapsa Bat.
The drive of the race, though, belonged to Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford, who were now third after starting in 55th place. Perseverance had also paid off for Hein Latergan and Chris Birkin, who were a solid 4th in the SP class in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. A late replacement for Mark Grenier in the Castrol Toyota at the start of the season, it's been a sharp learning curve for Latergan, and the former circuit racing star has shown plenty of character and determination under very trying conditions.
The second Toyota at the front end of the field was the RFS Hilux of Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst, who's another Comrades Marathon veteran. They were on their way to their third top 5 finish of the season, ahead of Kobus van Tonder and Rian Guelpa, who were the leading Ford team in the Unifreight Ranger.
Kobus van Tonder played Craven Week rugby and concentrated on polocross before switching to off-road racing. He also collects model cars and trucks and is one of the most enthusiastic privateers in the sport.
Chasing after the Unifreight Ford were Hugo and Jaap de Bruin. Despite a determined effort in the closing stages, the Micron Axel pair finally finished just over a minute behind Van Tonder and Guelpa. Brothers Johan and Etienne Besadenhout wrapped up their second Class P win of the season, with impressive rookies Johan van Staden and James Rousseau in a solid second in the KEC Bat.
After another race fraught with problems, reigning champions Cully and Quinton Sulwalt salvaged valuable points and family pride by coming home 8th among the specials and 6th in Class A. For crews in the lower classes, it was turning into a long and hot day, with Pikkie Labuskaghni and Rikus Erasmus starting their last lap at the front of the Class E field in the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux.
Class B was still in the hands of a KwaZulu-Natal crew with Rob Spencer and Gareth Mumford taking over from Brett Gurney, who had retired. Cliff and Louis Weichelt were still in complete control of Class D and had built up a huge lead over Henny Strumpfer and Hendrik van der Linde, who were nearly an hour behind. Jaco Swanepoel and Keith Solomon were headed for a solid finish in the IDM Cement Toyota Hilux. And behind them, there was a huge scrap going on between Naeem Musaji and Mohammed Mulston, who had Don Thompson and Don Blakely climbing all over them.
After a dodgy prologue, Cape crew Derek de Tooy and Ian Pienaar had done well to work their way into second place in Class B in the Orange Tree Bat. After a non-finish on the Eastern Cape 400, it meant valuable championship points for the pair, who were being chased by Class E championship leaders Dion Venter and Ian Palmer in the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux. Third in Class E were reigning champions Yanni Visser and Joks Leroux in the RFS Toyota Hilux after another tough outing for the pair.
After a horrific day, Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson had dropped way down the special vehicle pecking order, and Regent Racing teammates Terence Marsh and Peter Groenewald were having an equally frustrating outing in the ex-factory Nissan Navara, which was plagued by clutch problems.
Circuit racing and kart star Leroy Poulter and Rob Howie had also had a long day in the Ferodo Nissan Hardbody and were rewarded with fourth place in Class E. Behind them, Leon and Leonie Botma had ground out a solid third place in Class B and had the satisfaction of coming in ahead of championship leaders Bez and Dion Besaidnout in the Adenko Bat.
Another brave effort also saw the Makanete brothers make good on their promise to see it through to the finish.
The checkered flag was out for Hannes Grobler and Johan Moore, who hardly put a wheel wrong all day and led home a Nissan clean sweep of the first three places. After a non-finish on the Eastern Cape 400, it was a welcome return to form for Grobler and Moore, who is known to his close mates as One More. It had been a typically tough and exacting Nissan Sugarbelt 400, and Grobler and Moore had to work hard for their triumph.
Yeah, we've had an excellent race. We started 5th this morning, 5th overall and 2nd of the SP class. And it was very tough, it was very tight, technical, but it's a dream come true for the Nissan team, getting 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Yeah, so we couldn't have wished for anything better.
For Evan Hutchinson and Achim Bergman, the fairy tale continued, with the Motorride pair putting the finishing touches to their 3rd win in a row. The success of the Motorride Revo 1 4x4 also put a dent in the old adage that new race cars are prone to teething problems. It can't get much better than 3 starts and 3 wins, with the Revo 1 showing both impressive pace and reliability.
We are very happy. We never expected it. We thought that this car would be reliable. You know, that was one thing that we were counting on, but we didn't know that we'd have the pace like this. So, it's been a long, hard day. It wasn't an easy win, you know. The guys were right behind us and we're feeling quite tired and a little bit sick, so quite happy that it's all over.
A demanding route had also contributed to a tough day at the office for Dakar Rally hero Ivar Tollefsen.
This is hard. Today, 6 hours driving here today, it's one of the hardest stages or races I think I've ever done. It was extremely busy.
A place on the special vehicle podium was a good result for Nick and Ryan Harper in the Atlas Copco Bat. And KwaZulu-Natal crew Clint Gibson and Gary Campbell worked hard for their 4th place in the Gibson Racing Bat. The drive of the day belonged to Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford, and Toyota driver Hein Lateghan was sick and tired of dust.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tough. It's tough on the body and you need to be very fit. This last 50 Ks, I could feel it, you know. I mean, it takes feels like an hour before it's finished. I mean, we're reasonably pleased, but it's difficult. I mean, I drove in dust for 400 Ks and you really can't push, you know, and it makes it quite difficult.
A weary Kobus van Tonder was chuffed with his finish.
It was very technical. We had a few close calls, but we managed to escape from that. So we are very glad to be here.
For Class B winner Johan Besaidnout, it was an event that had everything.
It's rough, it's wet, it's dry, there's trees, it's mountains. I just love it.
There was also happiness from the Weichelts.
I think with the torque and with this terrain, I think the diesel did well. We just had a problem with the front diff coming home now, the last two loops. So we couldn't push really hard, otherwise it went very well.
A triumph for the Nissans on their own event, with the Donaldson Nissan Navaras taking the first 3 places. There were also top-class performances from Class E winners Pikkie Labuschagne and Rikus Erasmus, and Class D winners Cliff and Louis Weichelt, who both picked up top 10 finishes.
On the special vehicle front, it was 3 for 3 for motorite pair Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman, who have taken a tight hold on the championship. Sterling efforts also saw 3 Class P cars and 1 Class B entry make it into the top 10.
The final act of the day was random scrutineering checks with technical consultant Dick Sorensen checking the legality of the cars.
What I've got in my hand here is a gauge to measure the size of the induction air restrictor on each of the vehicles. Now in each class the restrictor is a different size, and this one is a 32, which applies to the SP vehicles. Okay? And measuring the size of the inlet air restrictor is a means of levelling performance to a degree.
The points as it stands after the first 3 meetings, and Duncan Foss has taken a 19-point lead into the Toyota 1000 Desert Race. He's looking good at the top, but Tollefson will be chasing hard. And in the specials, Evan Hutchinson is enjoying a 35-point lead over Nick Harper, and Michael Whitehouse and Johan Besaidnout certainly will have their work cut out for them as they head to Botswana.
Next up for the ABSA Off-Road Championship Brigade is the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race from June 19 to the 21st. It's the only marathon event on the calendar and a highlight of the year, with huge and enthusiastic crowds turning out to watch all the action.
And we'll be talking to you from there.
That was the ultimate test. The